This episode is brought to you by Whitaker Garage Doors, your one-stop shop for all things garage doors, proudly based in Peekskill, New York. Your home is a direct reflection of your personal style, and let's face it, your garage doors are the first thing people see when they pull up your driveway. Whether you're looking for the timeless charm of a classic carriage house door or the clean, sleek look of a basic wood finish, Whitaker Garage Doors offers traditional options for every taste and budget. I can personally vouch for their incredible service. When I had my own garage doors done, I was blown away by their timeliness, professionalism, and overall respect for their clients. Jonathan, Cassara, and their entire team are top-notch, and they really go the extra mile to ensure you're happy with the final result. So if you're in the market for a new garage door or need some repairs, give them a call or find them on Instagram at Whitaker_doors. Don't forget to tell them you're a friend of Dave's over at the No Snooze podcast. Whitaker Doors. You won't regret it. Now, back to the Epi. Adversity? Bring it. The struggle? I welcome it. Snooze on life? Never that. I am Dave Regina, and this is the No Snooze podcast. Come on. Welcome back, No Snooze Podcast, episode 214. As always, I'm in the booth with a phenomenal three. We have Claudio, the voice, Valenzuela, Alan, Hollow Labs, Collins, and I am Dave, the body, Regina. Alan Collins is a business owner, speaker, and advocate for personal transformation. With 12 years in recovery from addiction, he has built a successful career in the supplement industry, owning multiple underground nutrition stores since 2017 and founding Hollow Labs in 2019. Beyond business, he is deeply committed to giving back, spending the past 3 years speaking to men in recovery and those transitioning out of prison at the rescue mission of Trenton. Most importantly, he is a devoted husband to his beautiful wife and a proud father to two amazing daughters. Through his work and personal journey, he aims to inspire others to take control of their health, mindset, and future. Alan, welcome to the podcast, my brother.
Thanks, Dave. Appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. First and foremost, I have to thank you for coming from another country over in New Jersey, all the way to Stamford, Connecticut here. But we actually connected. Shout out to Amanda and Boundless Nutrition. I believe that was the first time that we connected at her block party, correct?
Yeah, man. Yeah, so she had some block party event at the store, and Raphael, the guy who does all my social media, works for me. He saw you, and Raph is big on connecting and networking, and he's like, that guy's jacked. He's got a great beard. He's talking to everybody. Go talk to him. So I came up to you, showed you some of my products, and we had a great conversation, and here we are, man. Couple ace events in the books, and now we're sitting here. So
yeah,
it's awesome, man.
No, thank you, and I just want to say thank you for the partnership. Thank you for the influence. Thank you for the relationship that we've built and also continue to build. It's not every day that you get connected to somebody, and there's a lot of similarities there, and we're focused on helping men and helping those in need. So I just want to say that to you, and I know that you're stepping into your purpose, man. And I'm very, very grateful for you and to have you here today, man.
Of course, brother. Thank you. Yeah,
yes.
yeah. Thank you for having the ACE platform for me to kind of shine through. So thank you.
I always ask people this, who are involved in ACE, and shout out to Sean Degnan, my partner, as everybody knows. What was it about ACE that kind of intrigued you? And I'll say this, I'll be very, very transparent. It took a minute for us to kind of connect on the phone. There was a lot of busy schedules going back and forth. And when you don't know somebody, you almost don't prioritize that meeting. So the initial meeting, I remember being like, hey, man, look, I might have this opportunity for your brand to get some exposure, for you to, get in line with what we're doing with Action Cultivates Excellence. And it didn't happen right away. But I kind of was persistent about like, listen, I feel like there's a lot of alignment there. Mm-hmm. So from your perspective, what was it about the whole movement that ended up getting you involved in it?
I don't remember exactly, but like I was telling you earlier, I just feel like the way that you show up in confidence, and then Sean too. I had a good conversation with Sean, And, when I finally went to the retreat that day, I had talked to, I don't know, 10 or 12 of the guys there, and it was some of the best conversations I ever had. And that's when I was bought in. Like I was man, this is awesome. Cause you had invited me to some of the dinners and some of the workouts before. And again, I just, like you said, I didn't really prioritize them. But then when I came to the retreat and I met a bunch of the guys, I was like, this is like, it felt like family, So then since then I've gone to 2 of the dinners, and I don't know if I'll ever miss a dinner in the future. So the dinners are awesome, man.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much. You've got some journey, man, and I want to take an opportunity to allow you to really tell your story. And addiction is no joke. Everybody on this show knows my personal relationship with addiction. Just through family members of mine. And whether you are an addict yourself, I do kind of identify as a individual that has addictive behaviors for sure. Never struggled, I guess, as bad as other individuals. You know what I mean, in my life, but I've seen addiction at its finest. So I commend you for being now 12 plus years in recovery.
It'll be 12 years in about a week or 2.
Wow!
Yeah,
congratulations, man. Every day is a journey, and it's just impressive to get through the day. So shout out to you for that. But I guess what was that pivotal moment, man, when you realized that like you can turn your life around?
Yeah, man. So 12 years ago, I'd gone to a 30-day rehab stint. That's, kind of typical. You do 30 days in a facility. From there, I went to a halfway house, and I was about 5 months into a halfway house. And I remember waking up every day, and I had these thoughts. And, when you first get clean, it's your brain. You think your brain doesn't stop working now. Like when you first get clean, it's nonstop, right? So for me, every day I had these thoughts. Do I get high today? Or do I kill myself today? Right. And that was real for me. And I remember one day I was about 6 months into being clean. I woke up, dude, and I didn't want to do either. Right. So I said, wow, like I cried, dude. I actually cried because it was the first time I started using heroin when I was 16. Wow. So from 16 to 29, my first rehab, I was 18 years old. And so I guess 11 years of trying to get clean. I finally had one day where I felt like, okay, well, I don't want to get high today. And I also don't want to kill myself today. So just maybe there's an opportunity here for me to turn my life around. And that's all I needed, man. That's all I needed. I had that one day, and then it was, obviously there's a lot of work, and there were some bad days after that still. But when I had one day where I didn't feel like I wanted to get high or kill myself, that was, I'll never forget that day, man. And that was, 11 and a half years ago. So that was huge for me. Yeah, wow. That was huge.
Powerful right from the jump, man. I actually have the chills.
Thank you.
You said something, though, that, I remember being 16, and I never, ever was around heroin per se. I was around other recreational drugs. What's it like being 16 to have that debate with yourself to utilize heroin? That's through a needle for the first time, or is that like a pill?
First time, it was just, it was powder. So you sniffed it for the first time.
Gotcha. How do you find yourself 16 years old getting involved with that magnitude of drug use?
Yeah. Well, so for my whole life, I never felt like I fit in anywhere. I just felt uncomfortable, awkward, strange kid. I had ADHD, so I couldn't focus on anything. I always got in trouble in school. Never could make any friends, or at least that's how it felt to me. Maybe that wasn't the case. When I was 16, I had got, I got grouped up with these, bad kids, I guess you could call them. And they kind of like took me in and treated me like nobody ever treated me before. My parents had just got divorced, so I was dealing with that too. And I don't know how it happened, man. It was just, somebody had it. I tried it. And the first time I did it, I actually got really sick and I threw up. And after I threw up, you would think somebody would be like, oh man, I need to never do that again. Mm-hmm. For me, it was like, oh no, that's the answer to all my problems. How can I get more? And this is at, 16 years old. And again, like by 18, I was fully addicted, injecting it and going to my first rehabs. So there was no thought of like, maybe I shouldn't do this. It was just like, they're doing it. So I'm doing it.
Wow. Were any of your parents addicted to substance abuse?
Yeah. So big shout out to my mom. She just got 6 months sober a few weeks ago. Yeah, man. So like, thank you. Yeah, this is my mom. My mom's been active alcoholic for as long as I can remember. And, my dad, I know he messed around with some things, but I don't think he was ever actually like addicted. But it runs in my family, dude. It's, my uncle's got 17 years. My little sister has 11 years. I have like other family members, who have dealt with issues in the past. So this is not something that, you know, I'm like a one-off. You know, this is this runs in the family. And I don't think, you hear a lot of people say that addiction runs in the family. I don't think it's the addiction. I think it's a trauma that's passed down and associated with the addiction, right? Because like I passed trauma down to my daughter through my addiction, and like, dude, somehow it's a miracle. She's amazing. She's got no addiction issues, and I think she saw me and our other family members go through what we went through, and she took that as a lesson, right? Like, let me not follow in those footsteps. And dude, she's 22, and she's amazing, man. Wow. She's like the most resilient person I know.
You mentioned the word trauma, and it reminds me of a podcast I was actually just listening to, Andrew Huberman, and they were talking about how trauma does not have to be traumatizing.
Got it.
It does not have to be, because if you choose to utilize that trauma and now become somebody like yourself or myself now, where we're able to discuss what went on, you're able to process those emotions. There's scientific proof and evidence that traumatic experience doesn't have to live with you and affect the outcome of your life moving forward. Whereas somebody like yourself, somebody like me, I've carried my trauma in a negative way because I was embarrassed to talk about it. I didn't want to get into therapy until I really screwed my life up and was at, you know, a rock bottom place in my relationships. But the point there is, everybody does have traumatizing experiences, but it doesn't have to affect you in a negative way for the rest of your life. That's not from me. That's actually from Andrew Huberman, which is one of the best in the world. So it was a great concept that he was talking about.
That's interesting, man. Yeah, that's an interesting perspective. Right? I never thought about that. Yeah. Yeah. So like for my daughter, she's 22 now. I have two daughters. I have a 22-year-old daughter, 3-year-old daughter. And she actually did, you know, she's gone through therapy, and, you know, it's probably got a lot to do with me, unfortunately. Right. Yeah. But I mean, she was able to get through her stuff, and yeah, like I said, she's doing great now, man. I'm super proud of her, because, you know, she had all the cards stacked against her, you know, and somehow she came through this, and yeah, man, she's doing awesome. So
wow, that's beautiful.
It's interesting. Yeah.
What's her name?
Angelina.
Shout out to Angelina.
Yeah, man.
You got a good dad, Angelina. How did the recovery experience, I guess, shape your leadership style, both personally and professionally? And again, I always want to be clear with this. This is Alan now processing now. It's not like you were able to process this back then while you were going through this stuff. You know what I mean? And I feel like as we go through these moments in our life, people listen to podcasts and they're like, wow, I can't identify, like, you know, how did that experience shape me? Alan's been doing this now and giving back to people and speaking on platforms and changing his life. So whatever you're going to say, I just want to be clear that this is something that has been now over a process of taking the thought in.
Yeah. Yeah. So for me, man, I think everything goes back to perspective, like how you look at things, how you process things. You know, a lot of people will say your thoughts are your thoughts and you can't change them. I believe that for a long time, right? I think, oh, I just have negative thoughts. It's just the way my brain works. And that's not true for me anymore. And, you know, it took me 12 years to get to the point I am now, like you said, whereas like in the past, something negative would happen to me, and immediately I kick into like the victim's mindset, right? The victim mentality, you know, confirmation bias. Like, of course this happens to me. Like, this is my life, you know, like bad things just always seem to happen to me. Well, it's weird. Bad things always seem to happen to people that think that way. You know what I mean? So what I started to do is I started to become aware of when those negative thoughts and those like patterns would come into my brain, and I would catch myself and I would stop myself and I would just switch to a more positive, I guess, thought pattern. You know, and like, okay, so this happened, it's over, can't change what happened. What can we learn from this? How can we grow from this? What can we take that's positive from this? And like, man, I'm not even just blowing smoke here. My brain immediately does that now. And it's fascinating to witness, you know, like coming from somebody who, like I said, 12 years ago was completely broken, didn't fit in anywhere, didn't know how to process anything. And now it's like my immediate thought process is like, what can we learn from this? Like from the rip, you know? So I think trying to lead more by example, but also like, you know, talk to the people around me. I catch people saying things like, and I'm like, hey man, look, you know, I used to think that way too. I used to say these things too. And I think the language that you use to yourself and to other people really dictate like your thoughts, your patterns, your behaviors. So like for me, like I said, it's all about perspective, man. Like how you look at things and how you process them and kind of like move forward and take what you take from that.
Yeah, you mentioned perspective, and it reminds me of something that I'm currently going through right now. And, this will be the first time that I'm sharing this publicly because it's actually happening kind of real time. So I just had a colonoscopy done. And, one, if you have not gotten a colonoscopy and you have like gut issues, I would highly suggest that you do that. I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease when I was 16 years old. So I've been kind of accustomed to these, we'll call them vulnerable moments of a of a colonoscopy. You can imagine, just now as a 35-year-old man, how almost embarrassing it is to be butt naked in front of nurses and, in a fetal position, going to sleep. So whatever. I kind of expected everything to come back really normal, because I've been, I stopped drinking a year and 65 days ago. Who's counting, Alan?
That's awesome, dude. That's awesome.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you. And, I try to make a lot of health conscious decisions, just how I live my life. And, at the time of recording right now, I still don't have the results of this colonoscopy. But the first thing that happened to me when I actually woke up from the anesthesia is the doctor came and checked in. And my mind is always very positive. Even when I was on that bed, my blood pressure was 117/57, which is like a resting heart rate. Typically, when you're going in under anesthesia, like you're on fire because you're nervous. And I wasn't nervous. I just truly felt that, God's got me and whatever will be, will be. So I was expecting really good news and the doctor to tell me, wow, man, you're living like a champion right now. Like you're better than ever. And that just simply wasn't the case. The first implication on the actual document that he printed out for me said high risk colon cancer surveillance. Now, I want to be clear. That does not mean that I was diagnosed with colon cancer. So I'm not saying that. But that was not at all what I thought that I would hear. But they ended up finding 6 polyps. And polyps really are just a lump of cells that kind of gather together and they can just turn into cancer. So what that camera does when it's actually in there is it has a claw on it and it takes those polyps to be biopsied, which is just a fancy word for being tested. So I'm currently waiting for those test results back. And it was a little alarming because I had 6, which was more than I've ever had before. Typically, I've had 2 or 3, and they were only 1 millimeter, which is very, very small. These were approximately 4 millimeters, which is just a little bit more. But to see in plain terms, the very first thing on that document, high-risk colon cancer surveillance, was something that was eye-opening for me. And I share that because, 1, it's just something that's going on in my life. But 2, my discipline and consistency when it comes to leadership development, working on myself from a personal and professional standpoint, I don't think I'd be handling this news the way that I am right now if I was not involved in it, because I am a little nervous, but I'm okay. Like, I truly believe that my actions, whatever the outcome will be, my actions are going to put me in a direction to where everything is going to work out. So I just share that with everybody. 1, to keep the perspective. 2, say a prayer for your boy. But 3, life, like we were talking about upstairs, Alan, will always catch you by surprise. And I know you also received a tough phone call the other day. So I guess to you, as I shared that, do you agree with what I'm saying in terms of like being more prepared for life as it happens with the heavy moments?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, dude, first I want to commend you for just like openly sharing that, because I feel like a lot of people would kind of keep that close to the chest. It is scary, but I think, like getting things off your chest kind of helps just make you feel better about the situation. But yeah, dude, like we were talking about, like doing hard things, right, prepares you for hard things, right? Like the more you do them, the more you practice them. And obviously preparing for getting a message like that, or, getting a phone call that's like life-changing, you can't fully prepare for that. But, for people like us who put ourselves in the fire every day, it's just easier to deal with, right? Because we're putting ourselves in suffering situations, so we kind of know how to deal with better, right? We can like self-regulate our nervous system, just like you keeping your blood pressure at like a normal rate when you're about to have anesthesia. Like most people, they're not doing that, but most people aren't pressuring themselves and like putting themselves in those like hard situations on a day-to-day. So yeah, dude, that's part of why I live the lifestyle that I do, right? Like I want to be ready always, and I'm always ready, right? So like you're saying, I got a phone call last week. My aunt in California is not doing too well. And she struggled with cancer for years. She's been on and off for 12 years. And we got a phone call that, something happened. I'm not going to get into all the details, but she's not doing well, so I flew out there and was able to visit her for a couple days. But, again, like you said, I'm much better prepared and equipped to deal with stuff like that because I put myself through it on a day-to-day. You know what I mean? So 100%.
God bless, brother. And I hope, I hope she pulls through.
Thanks, brother.
And I just hope you guys as a family hold close to those good memories. So you built multiple businesses, man. And, the supplement industry is a highly competitive industry, right? What is one mindset shift that helped, I guess, you differentiate yourself and become successful in this field? And by the way, if you're not on YouTube, log on YouTube and look at my boy's shoulder width here, because he's taking up the entire chair. So he's not just somebody who sells supplements. He's somebody who actually lives this lifestyle. So
it means a lot coming from you. Mindset shift. So when we first started the business in 2017, I think maybe not for everybody, but for me, and I think a lot of people, when you start a business, it's about survival. Right, like I got to get out of this 9-to-5 job. I got to make money. Got to build a business for my family, right? And it was like that for a few years. We always took good care of our customers, right? Like always was super grateful for customers. For the first few years, it was really just about survival and making money. A few years ago, when I started doing more like service work and impact work, my mindset completely shifted, right? Like I don't think about the money anymore. I think about the customers, right? Like, especially like you said in the supplement industry, where it's so competitive. There's stores everywhere, there's brands everywhere. And like, I've got to separate myself, just to be different. Right. So we try to, extra gratitude for customers, because they can go anywhere, right? Like they can go down the street, GNC Vitamin Shop, there's other competitive stores in the area. So it was all about, like impact, being of service to the customers, and just genuinely appreciating every customer that came into the door, and not treating them like some other supplement stores you go into, right? Because, you go into some stores and it's like, all right, it's like walking into a furniture store, right? Like the salesman, they jump on you. They're trying to sell you things you don't need. It's like the way that we train our guys is to, like treat every customer like it's one of your friends coming in the store and they need help. That's it. If they knew what they were doing and knew what they needed, they would just order online. Right? They're coming because they need help, and it's your job, it's your responsibility to ask them the right questions, make them feel comfortable, engage with them in the proper way to uncover what those issues are. And I heard Amanda was on your podcast, and she said she prioritizes people over profits. And I love that, dude. That's exactly what we do. I don't have a cool phrase like that. I should come up with one, but yeah, that's how we try to operate, and it makes me feel a lot better when we operate that way. Because it's genuine, like I actually care. I actually want to help my customers, and I don't think about the profits. Like, look, man, we all have to make a living, right? This is America. If I want to support my family and live the lifestyle I want to live, we've got to make money, right? But I think there's a right. I don't even want to say right and wrong. I think there's a better way to do it, and I put my head down at the pillow at night, knowing that I do it in like a more positive way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Does that answer the question?
Absolutely. I love that. And I also think you said something pretty important that, even myself, like sometimes I will go into a store because I just want to pick the brain of the salesman. And I never really realized that until you kind of just said it. Because the reality is, it's much easier to order online. But the way you view it is that if anybody takes the time out of their busy schedule to walk into your store, they want to be helped. And I think that right there is like Amanda's people over profit is your gold. So I love that, man. Thank you.
Absolutely.
What would you say your top supplements are that you recommend to both men and women, and are they different in any way? And I'm being selfish here because I want to make sure that I'm taking the right stuff.
God, this is softball, man. It's an easy one. So for me, top supplements. So electrolytes for me, I think is the most important. When you first wake up, you're dehydrated, and then when you're training, you're sweating. I think people don't realize when you're just drinking water, that you're replenishing like the liquid, but you're not replenishing the electrolytes that you're sweating out while you're training. So once I started incorporating electrolytes into my like supplement regimen, immediate impact on just the way I felt and performance.
So I want to stop you on the electrolytes because I agree. I take Element every day, but talk to somebody who looks at that package and says, "Oh my God, 1,000 milligrams of salt." It seems like it's a lot, and America, in my opinion, has blamed salt for the problems that sugar actually causes, because the salt industry isn't really the candies and the ice creams. So there's not that much attention around it, but they don't want sugar to fail us because the sugar industry is a billion-dollar industry. So talk to somebody, though, who's a little nervous when they look at that and they're like, 1,000 milligrams, I'm only supposed to have 2,000 for the day. What would you say to them?
Yeah. So first off, we got to get you some hydrate.
Okay, yeah.
I thought I gave you some. We'll get you some. But yeah, I think, man, the food industry, the medical, dude, it's we can go deep on that. And I think, for your typical person, maybe they shouldn't be doing like 4,000 or 5,000 grams of salt a day. But for people like us,
right?
milligrams, yeah. So for people like us who are training consistently, we're sweating all that out.
Yeah.
And there's also like quality of salt too. Like in our electrolytes, I use pink Himalayan sea salt as opposed to the basic like sodium chloride or whatever salt, like the generic table salt that we use. You know what I mean? So like salt is essential for performance. Like it's an essential electrolyte for your body. Like a nutrient, you need it for your body. And I think just like the sugar industry put out those false reports back in the, I don't know, it was like the 40s or the 50s about like fat causing diabetes and all those issues, when in fact it was the sugar industry. But they were the ones that put out the reports and paid the newspapers and funded the media to put those things out. So yeah, that's exactly what you're saying.
Okay, so electrolytes is one.
Electrolytes is one.
What are two more?
Magnesium, and magnesium is an electrolyte also, but I take a heavier dose of magnesium at night before bed. And that's just for like more restorative sleep, better quality sleep. It'll help you stay sleeping. So I'm going to lump those into two. The next one would be omega fish oil. So that's, inflammation, heart health, cardio health, joint health. And like, that's something that I've been taking for years. I do a heavier dose, like a 2 to 4 gram dose per day. Okay. So that's two. And then the third one, it's tough. There's a lot, man. I would probably say like a D3 K2 blend. And like I actually just made an omega with D3 and K2 like baked into it. So you can take all three in one shot. So D3 and K2 are really good for like immunity. I don't know if you remember back during COVID, like 95% of the people that had died from COVID had a D3 deficiency. And dude, it's like $10 for a 2-month supply. It's so cheap. Right. So D3, K2, immunity, bone health, like bone density, helps with bone density, bone regeneration, and then joint health. So I would say those three are the essentials for sure.
Okay, good. So I'm currently on all of those.
Good.
And I was expecting you to say creatine for whatever reason. I'm happy you didn't. But also, I just want to speak to your magnesium plus.
Yeah.
Right? So I've been taking that, and I definitely notice a difference. I take I think it's a 400 milligram dose. Is that accurate?
200. Yeah.
I think I take I take 400.
Double?
Yeah.
I take I take a dose and a half myself.
Yeah, so I take 400 milligrams, and that was just off of direction from a podcast by Huberman.
Yeah.
And I've definitely noticed the depth of my sleep. Like, I'm definitely in REM sleep a little bit more, and that's statistical data on my actual Whoop. So shout out to your supplements for sure. And then also, I take your pre-workout and also your serum.
Nice.
I'm kind of addicted, though. I gotta be honest. Like, when I run out of the serum, I get like, I don't feel the same anymore because I like banging them both back to back, and I like my caffeine. So I like drinking a cup of black coffee in the morning. After I'm hydrated, so I don't want to seem like I'm too much of a fiend here. But then I bang my pre-workout from Hollow Labs, and I do that as a dry scoop because it just hits me different.
My man.
And then I bang a shot of the serum. So what is the serum that I'm actually taking? Because that's a supplement that I personally have never seen.
Yeah, so it's called Berserker Serum. So it's a pump product, nitric oxide booster. It's in liquid form. So you're getting, if you do the full 2-cap serving, which I'm not sure you've done, the full 2 caps, it's 20 grams of glycerol, 10 grams of citrulline. That's kind of the meat and potatoes of it. There's like some nootropics, some other stuff in there for pump, agmatine. But what that does is that just drives blood flow into the muscle.
Okay.
So like better vascularity, better blood flow, theoretically tear a little bit more muscle tissue, build a little more muscle, but you just feel good. I mean, the glycerol is technically a carb. Okay. Right? It's like you'll see there's calories in there. It's a carb. So like if you're also taking carbs pre-workout, which most people are doing, now you're like stacking carbs essentially. So like carbs are much better for pump, blood flow, and you just feel better. It's like energy. You know what I mean? So that product, we came out with that less than a year ago, and we sold through, I think, 3 batches. Never done that. The label's cool.
Yeah,
so the label definitely sells it, and it's heavy too. So you put it in somebody's hands, and they're like, oh wow, this feels like it's got more value than a tub of powder because it's just way heavier.
My
you know what
daughter is 4, and she calls it bear's milk. So I want to show you
love
this
that.
video, and we'll clip this into to the YouTube. But this is
Cali girl, where do we get our supplements?
Hello.
High five, girl.
She's the best, man.
so we'll show that. But it's Cali girl saying, "Where do we get our?" I said, "Where do we get our supplements?" She said, "Hollow Lab." So
That's
again,
awesome. She's adorable, dude.
Thank you so much. But I really believe in the product, man. Like I remember taking it for the first time and really feeling a significant difference. I've always been a C4 guy. Like I've tried multiple things. There was nothing that ever compared to the original Jack 3D or the Jack back in the day.
Yeah, man.
But then C4 has been my go-to for years and years and years. But your pre-workout, man, it's really, really solid. Like I don't know what it is about it, but the ingredients in it definitely make me feel like I'm not jittery, right? But I like that focus that I have. And then also the pump that comes with it. So are you doing like significant research? Are you doing it based off of like your needs? Like how do you come up with such a great product?
It's both, actually. So, I mean, I've been taking supplements for years. I would say, I mean, I do a bit of research too, but I would say the way I make my decisions is really how I feel based off like different products that I've taken. And I'm like, I'm a person. These other people are people. Everybody's taking the same supplements. They're just dosed differently. And I'm like, if something works for me and I like it, people are most likely going to like it as well. But then I also like I'm really making these supplements for me.
Right,
you know, like, I'm really, if I'm being honest, like yeah, obviously I want to like supply and like, you know, I love when people like you tell me how good you felt. I like to make people feel good. But it started as me making supplements. Like I don't like any of the stuff that's out here. I want to make stuff that I like. And then it just so happened that people loved it also. You know, like the way I started Hollow was that I had my stores and I saw brands would come out with these pre-workouts and I would see the ingredient profile and was like, it's all right. It's decent. Cool labels, great branding, spend a lot of money on marketing, flying off the shelves. I'm like, but the product's not that great, right? So that's where I saw like a little bit of a gap in the industry. And then having stores, I had a platform to sell them at. So I came out with a pre-workout, a pump, and a test booster. That's how I started. And, you know, another thing I wanted to touch on is that I think when supplement store owners come out with a brand, they don't reveal that it's their brand. They kind of like hide that it's their brand. They have their guys push it through the store. And I think what happens over time is that people will catch on to that and they feel almost like duped a little bit, you know, kind of like manipulated. So what I did in the beginning was I said, hey, look, I own Underground. I own Hollow. These are my products. If you guys want to support, that's great. I'll have samples of everything in the store. We will not push this stuff on you. It's here. I just wanted to be transparent. I think people really appreciated that, man. You know what I mean? Because they supported from day one. So I didn't have any big goals or big dreams for Hollow. It was just like, let me come out with a couple products. It'll be cool. It's fun to do. And like from the gate, people loved it. And it really took off. So I'm on like iteration 3 of like the logo / label. We've reformulated a lot of products. And like over the last year is when I've really taken it more seriously. I came out with, dude, I think we either came out with or reformulated 12 new products in the last year. And I have 15. So like almost everything we have was built over the last year. But yeah, you know, like research, feel. Also, I have people like in my life that are much more knowledgeable with like supplements and ingredients than I am. So I'll build a formula, I'll send it to them and I'll say, hey, can I get your feedback? And they'll give me feedback. And you know, most of the time they're like, that's pretty solid, but I think this would be better here, or you can remove this and add this. Cause there's a lot of different forms like magnesium. There's 5, 6, or 7 different forms of magnesium, and they all serve a little bit different of a purpose. You know what I mean?
I think that's a huge business gem though. Like you identified like a real problem. There was 3 gems that you dropped. One is you make them for yourself, right? So that to me is like ACE. Right? Like we actually started ACE because it was the thing that we needed in our own lives. It just happens to influence a lot of other guys off of the same purpose. So that's one. The gap that you found with people just kind of masking it with marketing and not being, I guess, not disclosing all of the nonsense that was in it. And then the third one is transparency, right? Like being transparent and you just saying, look, I own Hollow Labs. If you want it, it's here for you. I think that approach is a golden business approach in general. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, man.
Talk to me a little bit about discipline and I guess how the role of discipline has added to your recovery journey and also business achievements, and then how you practice discipline, I guess, on a daily and weekly basis?
Yeah, man. I mean, discipline. I think discipline is everything. So we do these presentations at the rescue mission, and I kind of stole this from Jocko Willink, the whole discipline is freedom, or discipline equals freedom thing that he does. And I talk to these guys, and I think that statement has evolved for me over time. When in the beginning, like what I teach these guys is like, if you have the discipline to not commit a crime and not do drugs, you will have freedom because you won't be in jail. Like for them at that point, that makes sense to them. Right. For me now, it's more, if I have the discipline to do the things now that I don't want to do, I will have the freedom of fill in the blank later in life. Right. So it's freedom of time, freedom of finances, freedom of health. Right. Because I'm eating the things that maybe I don't want to eat every day. I'll get freedom of health. I have the discipline to like wake up every morning, do my meditation, my cold plunge, do all the things that we do, right, in the personal development space. I'm going to feel better later that day, feel more accomplished. And then again, like, we talked about earlier, like showing up and being better equipped to deal with the hard things when the hard things present themselves, And I think like in life, how many times has somebody told you they were going to do something and they didn't do it, right? Like we're let down constantly, man. Like it's all the time. I'm all the time. And I think when you hold true to what you tell yourself you're going to do, you're building trust within yourself, right? And like if you don't do those things, you can't trust yourself. Nobody else is going to trust you because you don't do what you say you're going to do, right? So like for me, that's the biggest part of discipline is doing what I say I'm going to do to myself, because then that's how I build trust within myself over time. So I've actually been using, Sean Degman recommended the Habit Share app, which has been awesome because, I noticed a couple months ago, my actions were not fully aligning with what my goals were. And it's funny because I would use that. I'd be like, are your actions aligning with your goals? And I wasn't asking myself that question. And when I asked myself that question, I was like, oh, they're not. So I had to make some changes. It wasn't, it wasn't terrible, but there were some things I was doing and some things I wasn't doing that like weren't really aligning with what I said I wanted out of life, And a couple months ago, I made some changes, and man, I'm locked in right now, and it has a lot to do with like having, again, meditation, cold plunge. I have 6 things that I do every day.
Sure.
Meditation, journaling, cold plunge, daily movement. Now that daily movement could be running, jujitsu, lifting, and if I'm having an off day, I'll go for a walk, or I'll carry wood for 30 minutes. I'll chop and carry wood for 30 minutes. Daily movement. The other 2, lost my train of thought. Reading.
Okay.
And there was one more. Lost my train. There's 6 total. But when I have those 6 done for the day, I feel so, and they're not that long. Some take 30 minutes, some take 10, probably an hour, hour and a half total per day, right? But if I can't commit that to the day, what am I really doing?
Yeah.
What am I really doing?
Yep.
So once I started really, because I've done all those things over the years, but not as consistent as I have been for the last 2 years, man, things are just happening, So it's amazing.
I love it. And I don't think it's by coincidence by any means.
Nope.
And you're really about that action, for a lack of better words, just because, you and I think, had a conversation even last week at the dinner in our breakout session. And, you were kind of picking my brain on like speaking engagements and stuff like that. I mean, this man followed up within 4 days of saying like, look, I achieved my goal for the month already. Right. So like, you're not just saying it, like you're actually sitting back and doing it. But I think it's interesting because like, I don't think that I know anything more than you know. And you might not think that you know anything more than I know. But when you sit next to somebody and get into close proximity with individuals, whether it's men or females, that want what it is that you want, it's just an amazing thing that happens, right? And like, I may have given you a framework that you're like, oh my God, like I'm going to go do this. But really, you already knew what the framework was. You just needed somebody else to kind of say it to you, right?
Yeah.
It's interesting how that happens.
Yeah.
But you're definitely about that life, man. And that's why you're here today. Are you looking to elevate your brand with captivating visuals and immersive sound? Look no further than the home of the No Snooze podcast, Kai Visions Productions, your go-to destination for cutting-edge audio and video production. At Kai Visions, we don't just create content, we create experiences that leave a lasting impact. From podcasts, YouTube variety shows, sleek corporate videos, to attention-grabbing promotional campaigns, our team of experts is dedicated to turning your vision into reality. Choose Kayi Visions for a production experience like no other. It's time to make your brand known. Contact us today at kayivisions@gmail.com or find us on Instagram at Kayi Visions. Kayi Visions Productions, where audio-visual excellence meets innovation. Now, back to the epi. How did you find, I guess, purpose after addiction? And talk to somebody specifically who's struggling with addiction right now, and that, you know what, the grass right now might be brown, but the grass isn't greener on the other side. The grass gets greener when you water your own grass. So talk to me about that a little bit.
Yeah, so just like I was saying, the discipline evolves over time. I think your purpose constantly is evolving. So for me in the beginning, like my purpose was simple. It's like, stay out of jail. Let's not do drugs. Let's not commit crimes, and let's get back into my daughter's life, right? Because when I got clean, my daughter was 11, and for 11 years, I was to be honest, a terrible father. In and out. I was around, but I wasn't there. I wasn't there mentally, and I wasn't there physically a lot either. So when I got clean, it was just my daughter was the only reason I was able to get clean too, because I had nothing else going for me. And it was like the one guiding light was knowing that my daughter was out there somewhere, couldn't see her, wasn't allowed to see her, but she was out there somewhere and she needed me and I abandoned her. So that's kind of what I always went back to. So that was my purpose in the beginning, and like she has been part of my purpose through this whole process, and like I just want to lead by example for her. But like now, I mean, I have, my big purpose is as you know, is, being more of service, having more of an impact. My brother-in-law dragged me to my first speaking engagement 3 years ago. And man, I was sweating. I was nervous. I was shaking. Right. But after I finished, I walked out of there. I've never felt so alive, man. I was just like full of energy, full of life. My heart was full. And, it's funny, similar to how when I first did my drug of choice, I thought like, this is it. Like, this is the answer. After I spoke to those guys at the mission for the first time, I had that same feeling like, this is it. This is the answer. And that was more real, obviously. Right. So, 3 years later, man, I still get nervous when I do things like that. In this, I was telling you earlier, this actually is the most confident I've ever felt with some type of speaking engagement, which makes me feel like I'm actually starting to become more prepared. So, my big purpose now, I'll share it with you guys. I think I've talked to you about this before, is that I want to own my own rehab. But my rehab is going to be different than any other rehabs. And that's going to be cold plunge, meditation, breath work, exercise, being outdoor, eating healthy food, like pretty much like how I make supplements for me, I'm going to make a rehab for me. All the things that I do in life, I'm going to roll it into a program. There's going to be obviously therapy and group work and stuff like that. But I know I'm going to do it. Right. And I've actually been working with one of the ACE guys on like setting up a framework for goals, like 10 years out, but then we're going to walk that backwards, 5 year, 3 year, 1 year, start knocking some milestones off. And if I know me, I feel like 10 years it's probably going to happen sooner than that. Just because when I want something, I really go after it and I don't let anything stop me, So, a purpose. Yeah. So that's not my purpose. Purpose first was just stay clean, right? Like just stay clean, stay out of trouble. And now it's like, how can I build a facility to help other people? Right. And if you told the 29-year-old me that this is where I would be right now, there's no way, no chance. No, if I'm clean, I'll take that. Right. Like I had such low expectations, and I think everybody else did too, which I didn't give them any reason to, think otherwise. You know what I mean? So yeah, man. So purpose, that's, I think a lot of men lack that, and, guys will say like, my purpose is to support my family. Like, yeah, of course. But like, what more is there? Like, can you do more? That's such a surface level. And look, no disrespect to anybody who that's what their purpose is. Of course, that's great, because there's a lot of men that aren't even doing that, right? But like, let's dig a little deeper. Right. Like let's dig a little deeper. And like for me, like let me help guys that are where I was, and like let's lift them up. And I know I have the ability to do that. So here I am, and we're on our way.
I love it, man. Thank you for sharing. You should call that rehab.
What do you want to call it?
The 6.
The 6. It's the habits.
The six habits that changed your
Oh,
life.
I like
man.
that actually.
It's yeah. When you were saying it, I was like, wow, like he's gonna incorporate the 6 things and the 6 disciplines that really changed
I like
Alan's
that, man.
life, man.
I like that. I've kicked around the idea
Yeah.
of like what to call it,
Yeah.
and I had no idea, but that's different.
That is
The
different.
6. That's different, man. I can see me and you standing in front of it right now.
I love it.
That's awesome, man.
I love it. No, and it, you know, as you're saying it, like, you know, sometimes people throw out these big goals, and you know, it's almost hard for, I guess, somebody else to believe it. But like when you're saying it, like I was already envisioning it. Like I literally was envisioning exactly what it is that you're explaining. And I think you said something really important too, that those who are struggling with addiction should realize, because this is probably the, I don't know, 5th or 6th time that I've spoken to an recovering addict that said the exact same thing. They found the thing that kind of resembles the high that they once got. Right, like for Joe K, it's been that cold plunge. Like he remembered going into a cold plunge just because he heard Joe Rogan and he was like, "Oh shit!" Like, yeah, he's ripped, and you know, I kind of want to do that, and it's something positive. And I remember him vividly saying, like, he got into that cold plunge, he came out, and he almost felt the same endorphins and that release that he felt when he used to get high. So I think that's also a way to inspire people who are struggling with addiction, that like just start doing things that like you're interested in. And there might be one that really drives you with purpose and kind of fills you up in that way that Alan was discussing. So I think that's definitely a gem right there, man.
Yeah, dude, that's powerful. I actually heard him say that on the podcast with you.
Yeah,
you know, that's
it's very true.
I was related to that big time.
Yeah, I'd be remiss not to talk about some of your I won't call them failures, but I'll probably call them mistakes. That you were in jail a lot.
I was arrested a lot.
Can you talk to me a little bit about that? I'm just kind of interested. You know, I'm interested in these stories, man. Like, you know, what was that time like for you, man? Like, were you just running lost, like, or like robbing people and just trying to find money? Like, what were you doing to get there?
Yeah. So,
and I think this is important because, and I want to say this, I want to be clear. You know, like people who go into prisons, like I would have no problem going to speak to a prison, but I've never been in prison, right? I have boys who made a lot of bad mistakes, but they're just a little bit. It's a different qualification when you've actually been there. So I do want to highlight this portion about you because it makes sense that you go back to prisons to actually speak to inmates. So,
yeah. I'm not gonna lie. I'm feeling a little uncomfortable in my seat right now. That's okay. Yeah. This isn't something I typically talk about, and I'm not. You know, I'm not ashamed. I'm obviously not proud. But yeah, dude, it was. So I never did like hard time in prison. So I just want to make that clear too. The longest I've spent in jail was 30 days. I've been arrested more times than I remember, if I'm being honest. And the last time I was running, I was arrested 5 times in 6 months. And it was, you know, possession and DUI. I think I had 3 DUIs, 2 DUIs, 3 possession charges. You know, so it was misery. It was just straight misery. You know, I wasn't robbing people, fortunately, because if I was, I probably would have been doing some hard time. I just stole things from stores and sold them. You know, that was pretty much it. Nothing, nothing too exciting.
No.
You know, my gig was I would go to like Walmart or Target and I'd fill a basket with PlayStation games and I'd throw them out the door and I'd go get them. You know, so there's nothing. Wasn't doing anything too crazy, honestly. So
now, when you were sitting there though for those 30 days, did you have access to drugs in jail, or was that a time that you like had to almost force yourself to get sober?
Yeah. I think if I really tried to get some, I probably could have, but nobody was putting anything on my commissary, which is like when people put money, or, you know, for you, so you can buy things. And you know what guys would do is they would buy food, trade food for drugs. I didn't have that option. My family gave me nothing while I was in there, and I'm glad they did.
Good.
I'm glad they cut me off. Yeah, so I did nothing. Yeah, for 30 days. But the day I got out, I was back to it. Like it did nothing. I had no other than like me realizing that jail wasn't for me. Which I think everybody would think that when they get out of jail. Like, yeah, jail sucks, you know? So luckily I came out. I had some, that time in particular, I relapsed, I think only one or 2 more times after that. And then I finally got it together.
It's funny you say that because one of my best friends, he was locked up for a while, and it was a heavy crime, but every week we would speak. He's like, Dave, you'd love it here. There's so much structure. They wake you up at 6 a.m. There's a lot of positive guys here. Like, everyone works out together. He's like, yo, man, like, you would love this shit. I don't like it. And it was just so funny. But I asked you that question because it says a lot about you, man, and just a lot about resilience, right? And, you know, at a time in your life that, like, you even sitting here now, you're like, oh, I'm a little ashamed, embarrassed, this, that. It's made you who you are today, man. And that shines through. There's no level of, there's no inkling of that human being here anymore besides the experience that you actually hold. So what's one of the biggest lessons you've learned about resilience? And I guess how can others apply that into their own lives?
So, I mean, I think my whole story is resilience, you know, like even being able to stay active with an addiction, it takes resilience, you know, because it's every day. Like, you got to get creative. You've got to really learn how to read people and manipulate people, unfortunately. And, you know, for 13 years, I struggled. And now, like, things are just easier to deal with now. You know what I mean? Because I always try to go back to, hey, man, like, you kicked heroin addiction, something that not a lot of people can do. Like, I know more people that have died from it that I knew personally than have got clean. There's still people out there that are running, you know? So, I mean, for me, it's just, I guess, taking I built resilience through addiction. And I think I carried a lot of that over into, like, having a business, right? Because we've closed stores. Most people don't know this, that haven't been with us for a while, but we had 5 locations. One was in a gym, and now we have 3. So we closed 2. And I never for a second thought about giving up or quitting or anything like that. Because I saw it, again, like perspective. I saw closing a store was a learning lesson, right? Like, what can I learn? Yeah, we lost some money, right? You could say we wasted 2 years on a location, but what did I learn from losing that? And I think the lessons that you get from a failure is worth, you know, it's priceless, right? It's like, now we know how to choose a location better. We know how to look at demographics better. Maybe it's a product choice. Maybe it was an employee choice. Maybe it was us, right? Like, we closed a store down back in 2021, and, like, I was blaming all other things. And then one day I realized it was my fault. I wasn't putting in the work. It was our second location. So our first location, we struck gold. It was like lightning struck in this location. And I expected that to happen at the second store. And that did not happen, dude. You know, so it was me. I wasn't willing to put the work in that I did in the first store. So I think just like learning lessons from the failures. But again, like, I never thought about quitting or giving up through all that, you know.
I want to ask you a question that I'm constantly asked, especially on podcasts. But you're a partner, right? Specifically a husband, a father, balancing family life with business and advocating for others. How you approach, I guess, time management and balance, right? For me, my answer is very clear now with balance. I don't think balance exists for where I'm at right now. When you think about balance, I think about a scale. And now if I'm balanced, that means that nothing in my life is taking priority, right? And I think whatever it is that I'm into for that day or for that week, that takes the priority. And my priority will always be, you know, my family, me as a partner, me as a father, giving back to others and serving. So for you, how do you balance that playing field? And again, I'm on this podcast now saying that balance doesn't exist, whereas I've answered that question many times being like, well, it's all about balance. But for me right now in 2025, that shit ain't about balance for me.
I'm so glad you said that, because I don't. If I'm being honest, I don't do a good job balancing it. For me, it's impossible. Like, I have 3 stores. I have the brand. I do like other things on the side to educate myself, like the personal development work. I could do the stuff with you guys. I have a wife. I have 2 daughters. I have, you know, I always talk about my chickens and all my animals. It's literally impossible, you know. But what I really do try, and I fail at this sometimes, probably more times than not, is when I am home. I really try to be like, when I work from home most of the time, but when I'm with my family, with my daughter, my wife, I really try hard to be present. And, like, you know, as a business owner, it's like nonstop, right? You're always thinking about what you can do, what you could have did better, how you can do these things better. You're thinking about certain conversation you had that you could have handled better. And I really try to, so what works for me when it does work is I try to use my breath to bring me back into the present moment. And it's sometimes I'll do it, multiple times in a 10-minute period, right? Because I'll come back and then I'm gone. I'll come back and then I'm gone. What I did that helped a lot is I bought a flip phone. And what I do, and right now I haven't been doing a good enough job being consistent with this, but for a while, and I still do it a few days a week, I will shut my iPhone off at like 5 or 6 o'clock. I'll turn the flip phone on. And the important people in my life have the flip phone number, family, my business partner. My wife trains jujitsu at night. So she's driving home. I want to be able, in case something happens, she can call me. And dude, that has been huge. Because once that phone, I feel like when my phone is on, there's this like magnetic, I'm just drawn to it. I'll go pick it up and not even know why. And I'll get mad at myself. Like, why are you picking it up? You have no reason to pick it up. And it's like, this is like the human condition now. Like we're all addicted, man.
Absolutely.
Whether you say it or not, we're all addicted. So I think like getting the flip phone was a big step, and turning it off, like turning my iPhone off, putting it in the other room, and just having the flip phone out. That allows me to stay a little bit more present, because almost like I'm turning off work by like turning off my phone. You know what I mean? So I mean that's helped me a ton. I do it a couple days a week.
Yep.
It's people, when I tell people that, they're like, "You're crazy. How can you do that?" I'm like, because I really care about like being present with my family. And if this helps a little bit and it costs me $15 a month, then I think it's worth it. You know what I mean? Like I'm buying back like time, and like it's feeling better about what I'm doing at home,
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because even just last week, and I listened to a ton of podcasts, obviously, but I was listening to one that was actually talking about the level of addiction when it comes to the phones. And the way to know that you are addicted is if your phone is in another room, just like you said, and you have to go get that phone, you're addicted, right? Like there's plenty of times that I can recall in the past couple of days that I've been in the living room with my daughter and been like, "Oh, baby, go grab my phone," or "Daddy's got to go grab his phone." Heavily addicted to the phone, because I feel like, oh my God, like my business, it's kind of everything. People need to get me. But the reality is it's just in the other room, like it's fine. So I've actually now, just in the past couple of days since I heard that, I'm like, I'm okay with my phone being, over there. It's okay. So for you listening, start to think about the level of addiction that you have to this cell phone, and start just challenging yourself. Like, when you have dinner, put the phone down, right? Like be present. And I think you also, between what we both said, I think we're going to tag something. Great tagline. Balance doesn't exist, but being present does. And that's pretty much what we both said, right? Like that balance, just for where we're at in life, it's very hard, and it's not going to happen. But as long as we're present in the moments that matter, as fathers, as partners, I think that's the most important thing. So you heard it here first.
Big time, right? Yeah, man. Yeah, it's all discipline, right? It all goes back to discipline. Like, do you have discipline enough to like put your phone in the other room for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20, anything is better than having it in your pocket at all times,
right?
Because I always think like what message am I sending my daughter if she's talking to me and I'm on my phone constantly? Right. Like I'm sending her the message that the phone is more important than her. Like I think about that a lot, man. And it really like breaks my heart. It makes me feel really bad. Like there's a lot of regret. Like sometimes I'll go to bed at night and I'm like, fuck, man, I shouldn't have been on my phone as much while I was home, and I just wonder how this will affect her long term, So I'm trying hard, but like you said, it's difficult, man, when you have multiple things going on and you're as like driven and ambitious. It's like people like we are, you want to be connected and be able to make sure that you're available if things come up. But in reality, I don't think we are needed as much as we think we are, honestly.
Yeah, I agree. 100%.
I don't think we're as important as we think.
Yeah. You got a strong woman next to you, man. What's your wife's name?
Marie.
Marie. Shout out to Marie. But how critical has Marie's support been to your success?
It's everything. Honestly, without her, I would not have anything that I have. So we met, I had just about a year clean, and I literally had, when I tell you I had nothing, I had nothing. She worked at a gym. She actually, the way I met her is she signed me up for a membership at the gym. Yeah.
And then you signed her up for a life membership. Wow.
Yep. And I had one pair of gym clothes. So she saw me coming to the gym in the same clothes every day. We ended up talking. And at the time I had no car. My car had just broke down. I was living in a halfway house. Obviously had no money. I was clean. I just got clean. and I had a daughter, right? So, and she had none of that. She was much younger than me. I was 29. She was like 23, 24. So she had none of that. I had all the baggage. She had none of the baggage. So I remember like a few weeks after talking to her, or after like starting to see her, we were having lunch, and I said, look, I got to tell you some things here, because she knew nothing, dude. She knew I didn't have a car, and I probably told her some like lie about what happened to my car, And I remember telling her, I was like, look, I'm an addict. I'm barely a year clean, and I have an 11-year-old daughter. And she was just like, whoa. I remember her face. And she said, okay, I can work with that. I was like, really? And, part of me wanted her to run, because I was like, at that time, I was scared of having a relationship, if I'm being honest. And I kind of, part of me wanted her to be like, I'm good. I don't want this, And she didn't, dude. She didn't. She stuck with me. And, we had this vision for the way our lives are now. And man, when I tell you that we are living the exact vision that we had, cabin, side of the mountain, chickens, wraparound porch. We have a daughter now. She doesn't work, right? She's a stay-at-home mom, which is what we wanted. I have freedom time. I'm home all the time. It's like, so she believed in me probably years before I believed in myself, right? And even if she never told me that, like her just accepting me the way that I was, and it was just me. Like all I could offer was me. I had nothing to offer. Like literally nothing. I was broke. I had fines. I had child support I was trying to catch up on. And she was like, all right. She supported us for, up until just a couple of years ago. And I've been with her for 11 years.
Wow.
So she supported us the entire time. And like even now, she knows like my schedule's all over the place. I come and go. I'm running around. I'm doing all the things that I have to do as a business owner. And she's kind of left to just, hang around and take care of all the things, take care of my daughter, take care of the house, all those things. But yeah, man, without her, I would literally have nothing. I don't know if I would still be clean to this day, because she was like a positive light for me early, just like she was normal. I didn't know what it was like to be with a normal girl. All the girls I had ever been with were like me, just broken. And it was just chaos, straight chaos, man. Yeah. So my wife is awesome, dude. She's the best. She's the best.
I love hearing those stories,
yeah,
man. And definitely shout out to her for believing in you before you even believed in yourself. But also, yeah, now she deserves everything she's got.
Yep.
So that's a beautiful thing, man.
Yeah.
God bless you guys.
Thanks, man.
What would you say you're currently working on in your life, man? Like right now, I hear you say this, and you and I have these conversations frequently. So you're like, Dave, man, I can't believe that I'm currently living the life that I always imagined, right? And that's a beautiful thing right there in itself. Whereas I think a lot of people would get complacent at that time. But what is it that you are currently working on to be a better you?
Yeah. So for me, like I said, I live exactly the life that we kind of envisioned. And I do a lot of like the meditation, like visualization, manifestation. I do all that. I believe in that heavy. But what's happened recently is I've kind of hit the ceiling where what I do is I tell myself like, hey man, look where you were 12 years ago. Like you should be complacent. Like you should be content with how much you have and where your life is now. So I'm struggling with, I guess like self-limiting beliefs, I guess you could call it. And like over the last 2 months, I've done a lot of work on it. And I feel like I'm, like kind of like chipping away at that barrier. And dude, honestly, and I'm not even saying this, like being a part of ACE has done a lot for that, like getting up in front of everybody, being able to speak my truth and like what my true goals are, and then being able to work things out with the guys in the groups. It's helped a ton, so like that's one thing. And like through all of that, now I'm starting to believe, like I had this rehab idea like 2 years ago, and I kind of just, I don't know. It's a lot, right? Like, can I actually do that? And like over the last 2 months, I'm starting to believe that I can do it and that I will do it, like now I will. I'm going to do it. It's only a matter of time. So I would think those two things kind of roll into one, like working on self-limiting beliefs, and that kind of transfers into like being able to get the rehab. And then other than that, I mean, obviously working on Hollow and trying to expand the line and come out with new products and stuff like that.
I want to stay right there because this is I think something that everybody deals with. So whether it's self-doubt, limiting beliefs, imposter syndrome, all those I think are very similar. How do you deal with those moments, especially in high-stakes situations? That's a tough question.
Yeah, dude.
It's a very tough question because, one, you've acknowledged that you struggle with it, but your life is high stake. Like, I look at my life as a high stake life, right? Like, any decision that I make, any bad decision that I make can potentially affect not only myself, my family, and a lot of people. So how do you deal with that, even though you struggle with it?
Yeah. So I think, like having guys like you around, like being able to having support, and you like my wife believed in me before I believed in myself. You're believing in me. You probably believe in me more than I believe myself in this moment, right? Like you're like, yeah, of course he's going to open a rehab. Look what he's done already, right? But like that imposter syndrome comes in when it's like, even coming here, you think like, who wants to hear what I have to say? I'm just me. Like, what do I have to say that's so important that like Dave, Claudio, they're going to sit here for 2 hours, listen to me. Claudio's going to put all this work in editing, post it, and people are going to sit there and watch it. But again, I think like having positive people around you who can talk you up and say like, no, dude, like I believe this for you. I see this in you and you're going to do it. And it's just the more of that I guess is told to you and you feel it. And then just, like seeing other people do amazing things too. Like, for example, talking to Brandon Godoris about his dream, like, damn, maybe I'm thinking too small, right? Like that dude's got a vision.
Yes,
and like, I believe that he's going to do it. Like maybe it doesn't work out exactly how he says it is, but he's setting his standards and his goals so high, he's going to achieve greatness, whatever it looks like. And I'm behind him. I believe him. I already bought my A to B con ticket. I bought my brother-in-law's going to A to B.
I'm speaking.
Yeah, and I know you are. That's part of the reason why I'm going. But yeah, I also want to support Brandon. But like, I'm trying to get just like with Ace, right? I believe in Ace. Ace has helped me a ton. I brought 2 guys last week. It would have been 3, but my brother-in-law had something else going on, and I'm trying to get more guys. I invited a couple other guys. So I think the company you keep has more of an effect on like your belief in yourself than any other thing, dude. Really, like if I'm hanging around, people who aren't doing anything all the time, I'm going to think that I can't do anything. Right. I'm hanging around like you, Sean. I've talked to Damiano and some of the other guys in my life. It's like together, we're going to do this. You guys are going to help me get my rehab. When I open it, you guys are all going to be there. It's going to be an amazing thing that we're going to accomplish together because I can't do this alone. I can't do anything alone. And I like that. Like when I first got clean, realizing and accepting that I can't do this alone, that was a big step. Right, because I always had this, like, even through business, like this rugged individualism. Where I'm like, I don't need anybody, right? Like it's me versus the world kind of thing. And like once I gave that up, man, I just started like accepting help. It's life changing, man, for sure.
It's funny that you mentioned Brandon. So Brandon was one of our first guests. CV, remember, like back in I don't know when we first started 5 years ago.
Nice.
He was one of the first ones that really made me, and I've never told him this. He made me believe in the product even more than I did. He emailed us saying like, hey man, look, like I see the platform you're creating. Like I want to come on and share my story. How much is it to get on? And I was like, how much is it to get on? Like, what do you mean? So obviously we did it for free, but that was the first time.
I'll pay you actually.
Yeah. Like, wait, what are you talking about? You want to come? So it's so funny how like we've transitioned and the relationship over the years has grown between Brandon and I. But, he's always had that vision, man. He's always had that big goal with Warm Heart Life, and what is it? 10. It's like 10 mil, impacting 10 million or 10 billion. It's something astronomical.
It is something. Yeah, I can't I can't remember because it's so big.
But to him, it's always been a thing. But yeah, shout out to Brandon, man, because he was one of the first ones who really believed in the podcast.
Yeah,
so
that's awesome, man.
That's an incredible thing.
I remember one thing he said to me when I first talked to him, and he's like, "See that mountain over there? We're going to climb it. We're going to climb it together." I said, all right, let's do it. Yeah, I love that.
So, again, man, your story is all about transformation. But I want to, before we wrap up, I guess, what advice do you have for someone who feels stuck just in their life, in their career? What would you tell them before they've transformed?
Yeah. So I think, okay, so if you feel like your life is stuck, what makes it that way? Like what part of your life is making you feel like you're stuck? And then what would need to be true in order for your life not to feel stuck? And sit with that. Right? Write on that, meditate on that, journal on that, and maybe like create like I did, like again, nothing. I didn't graduate high school. I've never taken a business class. I've never done any of that. I learned everything off YouTube, podcasts, reading, and just, falling on my face a million times. But I think it's important for you to have a vision for what you want your life to look like right? Like if you're stuck and you want your life to not be stuck, what does that life look like? To a T, right? Like, dude, when I used to do my meditations, I used to visualize myself pulling up to my cabin, getting out of my car, putting the key in, unlocking the door, walking in the cabin, like this is my home. You know, and my cabin doesn't look anything like it did in the meditations. It's better.
Wow.
It's better than it is, dude. I swear. It looks way different. I'm like, this is not, but it's better. You know, so I think what people I think they fail to like put the time in, right? Like talk about the phones, right? Like if you're stuck and you're not happy, there's a good chance you're spending a majority of your time on your phone because it's a distraction. It's a drug, right? Like we take drugs to numb and not feel. You're on your phone to numb and not feel, you know? So I think an exercise, spend 5-10 minutes a day without your phone, like sitting and just write like, okay, this is what, if my life looked like this, I wouldn't feel stuck and I'd be much happier, and go after that, you know?
That right there, everybody should stop whatever they're doing, hit rewind, and listen to that exact message. It's something that I'm going to do. I'm actually excited to listen back to it because I struggle with journaling, to be honest. I did it for a while, and I've done multiple like 30-day stints where I tell myself, look, I can do anything for 30 days. So I do it for 30 days, right? But journaling specifically is something that like even my girlfriend, Catherine, she does that every day, like literally every day. And she's also one that like, as I'm listening to you, I'm like, wow, she says the same shit, that it changed her whole life. She literally, she says, Dave, like I manifested you in my writing.
Wow.
Like the exact dude that you are.
Yeah.
Minus maybe the stubbornness and the impatience, but
Not perfect.
the exact dude that you are. She's like, I wrote about that. And there's so many things in our lives that when we come across it, she's like, yeah, I already know, like that. I wrote about that.
I love that.
And that's something that even for me that I definitely have to challenge myself, man. I love these moments because I can go so many places with you. But I guess community is obviously something in your journey of recovery and even in business that you've spoken a lot on. Talk to the individual who is embarrassed or nervous to get involved in a community. And I'm not plugging Ace here or anything like that. Like I believe that whether it's a AA community or it's, you know, I know a community of moms that push strollers in the mall and they deal with like, you know, that feeling of like just having nobody around them because their husbands maybe go to work and their kids just need to be breastfed and they're living that life. So just speak to the importance, I guess, of community for those who have struggled to get involved with one.
Yeah. So, I mean, I was that guy, right? Like I told you, I was, you know, me versus the world. I always had that mentality. And I don't know if I have any advice on how to, I just kind of dove in, man. You know, I don't really know if there's like any advice that I can give. I'm just being honest.
Yep.
You know, I would love to drop some gem on this, but you know, it's like I started to pay attention to the people that I felt good around. You know what I mean? And I started to pay attention to the people that I didn't feel good around. And I started to gravitate obviously toward, you know, the people that I felt good around. I've had to cut a lot of people out of my life. You know, and I also still have to keep distance from certain people. Like certain people are going to be in your life and, you know, it's your responsibility to kind of, I guess, categorize them. And, you know, there's some people that small dose people, you know? So I don't know, man. I wish I had something.
No, I think that's
you.
it right there. It's funny. You're saying, oh, I wish I didn't, you know, I wish I had a gem or some value there. It's that though. The initial step is starting to pay attention. Pay attention to the people that make you feel good and then pay attention to the people that don't make you feel good, right? Just start there. Start there because that can then drive you in the direction of even finding the community. So I think you broke it down perfectly. I love that. Did we not touch on something today that you wanted to highlight? And I always ask that question because I've done a lot of podcast episodes and been on people's podcasts and been interviewed. And I'm like, damn, man, you didn't ask me the thing that I wanted you to ask me. So is there something that you want to share?
Honestly, no. I think we covered everything.
Awesome.
Yeah, just, you know, the main thing I wanted to mention was just the rehab idea, you know, because that's, I'm trying to really like speak that into existence.
Yep.
And for me, like doing more things like this is going to, like, look, let's be honest, I'm going to need help with this, right? So I'm hoping that like the right person hears this and says, oh, that sounds awesome. I want to get involved. Because back in, when I did that, I think I told you I did that fundraiser run in 2023 where I ran like 72 miles on the Appalachian Trail, and I raised $63,000 for the rescue mission. And like that wasn't, most of that money wasn't from like friends donating $50 or $100. There were some big players that got involved, and like one guy donated 25,000, one guy donated 15,000, you know? So like, I'm going to need those types of people who believe in my vision, who like, they saw this guy's running 70 miles to do whatever. I want to get behind him, you know? And you know, what's funny, talk about like having bigger beliefs. When I first set that run up, my goal was 10,000. And then somebody said, that's too small. Go for 20. I said, okay, we're gonna go for 20,000. And then the guy who donated 25, he said, no, we're gonna go for 100. Wow. Because like in order for people to donate like big amounts of money, they want to believe like 10,000, how much change are you really making with 10,000? But 100,000, like that's gonna get people excited. So I said, you know what, let's do it, man. Let's do it. So then he put the first 25, and then we got some other big donors, and it was like, for me, yeah, I didn't hit my goal, but it goes back to like talking about Brandon, right? Like if Brandon is trying to go here, and he comes here, but his original goal was here, like he still is successful, you know? So like 10 turned into 63. So I 6X'd, in my opinion,
absolutely.
from my original goal. And that was through the right people hearing about what I was doing, and like, man, that's awesome. Like I want to get involved. How can I help out? It was amazing. I had like videographers. I was in the newspaper. I was doing interviews. And like 3 years ago, I'm sure you can imagine, for me, that was so uncomfortable, man. Like that was my first experience with like putting myself out there. They got me like taking pictures with my arms crossed and smiling. And I'm like,
I hate those photos.
I just want to run. Like I want to be in the mountains and run by myself. That's what I want. That's what I had the vision of this whole thing. But what happened was I actually had a team of 4 guys, like 4 of my best friends. They were with me the whole time. They took my pickup, which was like a mobile aid station, and they met me at road crossings. Wow. I had coolers. They were massaging me. They were putting tape on my nipples because I was chafing. It was amazing, man. So that was a whole like team effort. So like talk about community. I had a whole community of people around me for that. And it was amazing, man. So yeah, again, like the rehab idea, and that's where my head's at right now.
Wow.
Like,
I love it,
feels
man.
good. Yeah,
no,
feels good.
You're putting it out there, and again, I see you manifesting it and truly believing in it. And I got to be honest with you, I believe in it as well.
Thanks, brother.
I enjoyed today, man.
Me too.
I'm excited to continue to build this relationship, and I'm very grateful for you coming out. I think this went exactly the way that I had envisioned it to go. So, guys, if you want to book Alan for a speaking engagement, if you guys want to connect with him, Alan, if you would look right into that camera right there, let everybody know where they can find you and connect with you.
What's up, guys? Yeah, so my store's pages, it's Underground Nutrition on Instagram, How Labs on Instagram, and then my personal is acollins.33.
Perfect. Listen, man, this was a good one, my brother. Thank you so much. Guys, whether you listen to 1 or 214 with my brother, Alan Collins, we just want to say thank you. The podcast continues to grow. We were a top 10% podcast on Spotify in 2024.
Congrats.
And that's, thank you. That's only a testament to those who tune in and share the show. As always, you can shop the latest merch at nosnoozeshop.com. And until next time, stop snoozing.
Get up and get after it.
My man, Alan Collins. Killed it. Thank you guys for tuning in. That's another epi in the books. You can follow us on Instagram at No Snooze Podcast and leave us a 5-star review wherever you listen to us. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, No Snooze. Shop the latest merch at nosnoozeshop.com. Come on.